Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
It is indeed live and in color on Sportsnet's YouTube channel, Sportsnet Now, and also heard on Sportsnet 590 The Fan, downloaded on iTunes and Spotify. After a tough last week, Toronto Maple Leafs steadied the ship on the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And we are here all week long to tell you about that and a lot of other cool stuff. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Jennifer Rolnick, Derek Brandale, and Sammy. Now, JP, I said ship with a P, didn't I?
Listen, if you didn't, it wouldn't be the first time you said it the other way, so we'll be okay.
All right, so that's what the weekend did for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Wins against Detroit. Wins against the Philadelphia Flyers.
They must be close to catching the Bruins now with all these wins.
Have you watched the Bruins lately? Do they even know how to lose?
Oh, my God. They are 32, 4 and 4.
Yeah.
850 winning percentage, swept California 4 in a row, no losses in their last 10. Bruins are good.
A weekend that was really played out the way it should.
Yeah.
Two
both
teams not going to the playoffs. Two teams at times have struggled. I think Detroit's closer to being where they want to be than I think the Philadelphia Flyers last night, guys. Like, painful to watch the Philadelphia Flyers.
Yeah.
I watched them and I'm thinking, my first thought was, where is this organization going?
I know. And that's the worst part for Chuck Fletcher is they were trying to win not that long ago and maybe even this year. But that's not a team that was constructed to lose. They're not Arizona. They're not Chicago trading away Doc and DeBrincat. They're just bad. They're just genuinely bad.
We suck.
Leafs now 5-0-1 in back-to-backs.
That's weird, isn't it? Is that weird?
It's a good number.
It's great. As good as you can do, -1.
So what was the
point.
number one priority here is to make sure that the goalies feel good, that they are back in a positive mindset, the one that I think Sheldon and the team kind of painted the last 6 weeks. Bit of a hiccup since December 15th, which takes us right around, I think, when the Rangers, when they went to Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
And then it was well noted that between December and going into the weekend, they had the worst save percentage out of 32 teams.
You know, we went into this weekend with concerns, right? We were concerned about the goaltending, concerned about John Tavares and his play had fallen off. And those two topics got good answers from the team this weekend. Both goalies really good, steady performances. John Tavares, 5 points in 2 games. A couple of the bigger concerns. Nice to see them answered and not become nagging long-term problems.
All right, let's kick off this week with a Kyper's Clipper, Sheldon Keefe, on the overview from the game. Let's start first with Sunday night.
Yeah, I thought our start was really good. Really liked, the Caps line was really, really strong for us. And, I'm not sure what they had to show for it offensively, but to me, they were really good at setting up other lines for success and carry and play and kind of wearing down their team a little bit. So I thought that was really good. I thought, we made good on a lot of our chances and obviously scored a bunch of goals, and that put us in a good spot in the game. I didn't think we had our best game by any means. Relied on our goaltender probably too much, but he was terrific, and that's really the story of the game for me is how he played. But all considered here, it's been a tough stretch for us here this week, our 4th game this week, and to get the good results is nice.
The top line did a good job putting other lines in a position to have success.
See, I got my goaltending was the story of the game.
Okay.
That's what I pulled out of that.
Well, he did specifically say it was the story, so probably is. Sounds right.
I mean, I no, but maybe it's not entirely right, but it's where his biggest concern was, and he needed to prop it up because it was good enough to prop up.
That seems to be something he makes a real effort at, trying to keep the egos running high in a good way, trying to keep everyone feeling good about themselves. Because now Murray, the game before Murray was in, they beat Colorado 6-2, if I'm not mistaken. You know, you get a couple of games together in a row. You know, the Konechny one, okay. You know, Delorier one's a nice backhand. So, fine. Now we know that Matt Murray is going to go to NHL jail for rattling the post. Michael Russo was tweeting before the show that they're watching Murray in the post thing.
Great. So it took a Leafs goalie doing this for everyone to notice. It's been happening for 150 years.
So as
long as there's been posts, this has happened, and it's like, the Murray did it. Time for a referendum.
No, it's not. Russo's late to the party on this one because we had talked about this when the Leafs visited Minnesota. What was that, over a month ago?
Oh, yeah.
We talked about this already. We had this conversation. It's a league issue.
It is a league issue, but what can they even conceivably do about it? Nothing Matt Murray did last night warrants putting a guy in the penalty box.
You know, it does.
What is he doing? He's testing the post because it was loose. Unless you believe he's rattling it loose. If you are
under no duress and you knock off the net on your own, you are subject for a delay game penalty. You are.
Right.
And it is an extreme, and you better be darn sure. But I think that's where we're heading.
Yeah, just what you need more in the NHL and the rule book, more gray area. Like more.
Imagine
room
the
for
play is going down at Philly's end. The ref blows the whistle and goes, "We just don't like the way he's touching the net."
The whole thing's gray.
It's another.
Do you understand? It's all gray. Tripping, hooking, interference. It's all gray, Sammy.
No, well, if you trip somebody, whether you meant to do it or not, it's a penalty.
That's right, though. It's a subjective call.
Yeah, subjective. But if you're going for the puck and your stick gets in a guy's feet and he steps on it and you trip him, it's still a trip.
You're right. You're right. So, and if you're interfered like Tavares and you whine and complain about that one's interference or it's not. There's no gray there either, eh?
No, I think tripping and tripping and hooking are the ones that you can point to. But there's rules that you're basically saying that there's no rules that don't have gray area. There's lots of gray area. I'm just saying that,
and it's up to the official to have the guts to say. Listen, you did not have to knock that net off. You didn't. You just wanted the whistle.
I like that. I think Murray likes to keep it on tap as a complaint if need be. If play ever gets hot and bothered around him, then it's an option for him, right? Take the two.
I just can picture this happening in the playoffs in a big spot where the goalie didn't need to do it. It's going to be
right.
It's been a big thing.
It's been discussed for months now on how to present this next board. General managers meetings, all of it. That's at the.
I don't think there's anything.
It's at a. Not the top. I don't know if it's at the top of a list, but it is. It's an issue that is going through the league and will end up somehow with the general managers.
We'll end up somehow with the Leafs getting a double minor in Game 7 for post contact by a goalie.
They weren't warned.
Well, that'll be interesting. We'll see if the warnings come, if they get more serious.
All right, we got a terrific show. We've got Stellick will be joining us in about 35 minutes. Gord Stellick. Bob Stauffer is going to stop by and let us in on what the Edmonton Oilers may need going into the second half. And is there really a chance we can only have two Canadian teams in the playoffs?
No, Alberta's going to sort it out.
Connor McDavid needs some new socks.
Calgary
old socks.
Did you see oh my God, the video of his socks? It's horrible. Anyways, continue.
Calgary kind of giving up a point to Chicago, and that's not going to come back and haunt you at all.
Oh, Calgary, just keep waiting for them. They're spinning their wheels. Need to get some traction.
All right, just to touch on a little bit more of the goaltending, can we put to rest that somehow, some way, the Leafs could end up with another goalie by the end of the year? Can we just put that to rest?
We can't.
Yeah, we can.
No, we cannot.
Why not?
Because their goalies aren't that great.
These two tendies.
I'll put it to rest with you, Kyper.
Yeah,
we
thank you.
We can let it rest.
There,
I mean, Joe Wall may
it's-
be involved
it's-
at some point when one of them gets hurt, but these are the two guys.
That may be the end result, that if they do falter enough that you pull up Wall from the American Hockey League. His numbers are phenomenal, are they not, at the American Hockey League, Sammy?
Wall?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's 8-0-0 in his starts. I think he's got a 9.43 save percentage.
All right. I mean, again, it's
or
8 games.
Shalgren's been their boy.
He was hurt early, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got 8 games in.
Apparently,
I think the
Shalgren
team's,
hasn't been very good. That's what I've heard from some Marlies people.
that may be a last resort, but
Yeah.
there. If we look at the back half of the season now, and really the way the league is,
Yeah.
what stretch do you think that these guys would have played, have to go and shop for another goalie? There's no time for them to stink that much. Not when you're playing the likes of the Flyers and Columbus coming up, and you're going to judge your 4 games against Boston and Tampa Bay to decide whether or not these guys can. There's no time, JB.
You tell me that if Toronto loses to Tampa in round 1, 6 games, they get stinky goaltending in 2 of them. They got to go to their backup because one of the guys can't do it, whatever.
Yeah.
That you're not going to come on this show and say, it was a problem. We knew it was a problem.
Yeah.
I don't trust it.
Of course I will.
Matt Murray has, in the last 3 years prior to this season, was like 78th in saves above expected or whatever. He hasn't been good for some years. So he's got 16 games here as a 916. Samsonov's got 16 games as a 916, both of them. I'm not comfortable. But I understand there's not enough hockey left to say they've been bad. You need to move on from one of them.
And there won't be a long enough stretch where they'll stink.
I know.
The team's too good.
I know. I agree with that.
And I think this weekend kind of showed it, that you are now in a position, if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, when you look at your goaltending, you are hoping and praying that you've got, between Matt Murray and Samsonov, the next Darcy Kemper.
Yeah.
And there's just no time for them to bail.
Wins a cup, right?
It's-
Holtby wins a cup.
And then what? At the trade deadline, if you are a little bit uncomfortable, you're going to go do what he did 2 deadlines ago and give up a 3rd rounder for Rittich.
Yep.
Which was
Loved that trade.
useless,
Loved it.
Useless trade. Hated it. Hated it.
And the
what
next
did you
day,
love about
Freddie
it?
was on the
To
ice.
me,
What did you love about giving up a 3rd round pick?
well, they had injury issues with Anderson. They didn't know what he was going to be or if he could. At the time, Rittich had been pretty good for a stretch, and it seemed like an insurance policy. You were a Stanley Cup contending team who, let's say Anderson was hurt. Who was the backup? Was it Hutchinson, or it was someone that you didn't trust?
It was definitely Hutchinson at that point.
And so it was like, you need someone just in case he's hurt. He didn't need him, and Rittich stunk every game he played, and it didn't work out. I like the theory behind it.
He played 4 games for the Leafs.
Poorly?
4 games.
Yeah.
Who was on the bench in the playoffs? Riddick was in the stands, was he not?
Yeah,
he was.
Yeah, Freddie. Wasn't Freddie in? Or no, what? I can't remember. Honestly, that was the bubble. That doesn't even feel like real hockey, but I don't know. I can't remember. I can look it up.
Yeah.
My point is, though, if you're going to give up a 3rd rounder for a guy in the stands, in the playoffs, by the time you get him out of the stands, it's too late.
That's a very good point.
It's too late. It's over.
Yeah. By the time you're going, well, Freddie can't do it and Hutchinson can't do it, you're down at best 3 to whatever.
And to go back to your point about asking Kyper, if we come in here after they lose in Game 6 to Tampa in the first round and it's because of the goaltending, well, we've had a question about this on Friday when Kyper was away, that is this ultimately the blind spot for Dubas that kind of costs him his job? And both of those conversations can be the same thing. Like, they stuck with these 2 guys, they went with it, and it's what cost them, and that's what cost Dubas his job.
I just don't want to be the guy who, then we're sitting in here and you guys go, well, they were great up until that point. It's been 16 games.
We're not. That's not our angle. Our angle is, this is your bed, you lie in it.
Yeah, it is. That's the bed. And,
Right?
but you
can't-
change
you
the
can't-
sheets still.
No, you cannot. You can't. It's just
Do you have any idea
Too
of a hockey
late.
goalie you'd like? Is there
Well,
anyone out there that
Nat, I think you're getting to the point. So it's January 9th today. The trade deadline is under 2 months away. We're going to have a clearer picture a month from now of who would be selling, who would be available.
I mentioned Varlamov. I just off the top of my head, the guys that were in their last year of their deal.
Yeah, Varley's an interesting
Cam
one.
Talbot's interesting to me too.
I guess the question is, are
like
either
him.
of those guys better and make you more comfortable than Samsonov and Murray?
Shouldn't be a lot better than Matt Murray.
No.
Cam Talbot.
I think I'll say this. I'm coming around on Matt Murray. I think you can talk me into Matt Murray. Samsonov, I'd like to see a good run of play. We know we got a good game Saturday night from him. I'm just
Okay, let's
hesitant.
let's pick up Sheldon Keefe's comments on Samsonov from Saturday's game against Detroit.
Okay.
You know, we've been needing our whole team to play better, but I need our goalies to play better as well, and hasn't gone as well for them. But Sammy, the last 3 days in particular, he and Curtis Sanford have put in some real work. I mean, our team took yesterday off. Sammy and Curtis did not take yesterday off. Those guys were in working, and they're on the ice. And I thought right from the morning right through to the game tonight, Sammy's focus was really, really solid. He looked destined to have a great night here tonight, and I thought he did it. He was excellent. We didn't give up a great deal in the second and third periods, but he was ready for anything that was going to come at him. So I was really impressed with the work that he put in to get prepared for this game, and then the way he came out and gave our group confidence.
Can you really be destined when you play Detroit and Philly?
Yeah, that's why you're destined. But I will say, going into the year with Samsonov, the criticism was work ethic and not work ethic, but off ice care.
Focus.
And this is great. This is great that he recognizes that it's a time for increased focus. If that was a problem, it seems he's taking care of that problem. He's playing well. Maybe I should shut my mouth and just put on my Samsonov jersey that I don't have, but should.
Listen, we can talk until we're blue in the face about this. It's about one of them getting hot at the right time. It's, you're going to go into the playoffs. The April's going to come. That first game's going to start. You're probably going to, who knows who you're going to go with. And you hope that one of them gets hot.
I can't imagine it's Samsonov, but never know.
But even if it is, I don't think there's a world in which I don't think there's a world in which we get through the series where not both of the goalies are playing. Would you agree?
I don't know if one of them has established themselves. Personally, I like to go with one guy. One of the perks is you get to change your goalie if the other guy's struggling.
And you think back
in game.
And you think back to all those playoff series over the years where an established starter has been sat down. Think about when the Caps won the Cup and they had Holtby, and in the first round they put Grubauer in there. There's another example of that recently. Scott Darling went in there for Corey Crawford at the time. Like it does happen.
Yeah,
where goalies go in. So
Markov got pulled last night.
Who?
Markstrom. Sorry, Calgary.
Yeah.
Calgary.
And
Chicago.
They went on to get a point. I mean, it helped,
against
right?
the juggernaut.
I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can change the tides by
Can you
pulling
ever
them.
picture Daryl Sutter saying, I just felt he was destined.
I don't think he's got that in the vocab.
It's clear he's overcompensating their maybe lack of confidence at times.
Yeah.
That's okay. I mean, that's the new world. If he feels like these guys need to be propped up a little bit because they do
prop away,
lose their confidence, he's all they got.
Yeah, I would agree. How did you feel about their play as a whole on the weekend? Obviously, two, no one call them runaway wins, but pretty handy wins.
I think they did what they needed to do.
To me, that looks like a good team mid-season where you just kind of you win. It's not like a high, crazy game, high event. Like they just kind of got through it, get their 2 points and go home.
Yeah, and the boys got their cookies too.
Yeah.
Right? They got
Tavares on the board.
They got their points, and Yeah, I didn't get a ton out of the weekend, to be honest with you. They're just throwaway games. They're fillers until you get to meaningful games.
Yep.
And they did what they were supposed to do.
Connor Timmins scores his first NHL goal. Callie Yarncrok is a superstar.
All right. What'd you think of Timmins coming in out of the bullpen?
Yeah, I mean, I really like the idea that they wanted to get him in because he had played well and he didn't come out because he had played poorly. You know, Sammy and I was on the post game with Sammy last night, and we talked a little bit about Timmins, and my point about him was, you know, I love the way he's played for them. It's just in playoffs, there's no way he's in if everyone's healthy, right? Like, you can't see a world where what he does is something they badly need, but he's a nice player who played a really good game, shot in the net, first career goal.
Yeah, I mean, I've been pretty clear over the last few years that I think to get to a conference final or Stanley Cup final, you need 8, if not 9 guys to be able to come in. And if he's done anything at this point, he's proven that he could come in and not look out of place.
Yeah.
I just still don't know where he is physically.
That's essentially
it.
it.
At 6'2". Did he get hurt last night?
Yeah.
He kind of had a weird fall in front of the net.
I know
for some reason he was in front of their net.
And then he came back and scored.
Did anybody ask him where he went or what happened? Or it's like, I mean, every post-game interview I saw last night is, oh, you got your first, tell me what it's like. No. Where'd you go? Did you get hurt?
Yeah.
Or did you have equipment issues? Would you have to go to the bathroom? Where did you go?
Yeah, the talk on the broadcast was a lot of like, oh, not again, poor Timmins. He hurt quite a bit, and then he just came back and scored.
I mean, Game 1, Game 3, Game 5, Game 7. If you hit the guy, he's going to disappear for a little bit and then come back, or does he not come back at all?
I do like the idea, and you mentioned this as like an 8-9 guy that comes in, he can break the puck out, and he can, you know, head up players, Keefe calls him. But if you were to criticize the Leafs in previous playoff years, a softer, talented guy on the back end is not,
for me personally,
what they would need to add to those groups.
If I'm in the playoffs, I see that guy, I'm dumping it in his corner, and I am pasting him.
Yeah, I think that's probably a fine tactic.
Right.
Obviously a very good player, and I love the idea of, you know, them getting him, of what he can provide for them. But yes, he is not.
How many of the Leafs are you not doing that to, Kyper?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like, you're really, I mean, I guess you're Morgan Riley. You're not going to be able to catch him. He's going to slither his way out of there.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's a ton of guys. And that's maybe where the issue is and why people do want them to add some sort of grit on the back end. There's not a ton of guys out there that you're really afraid of physically at all. So
yeah,
maybe it's a bigger conversation about what they're going to be looking for, but I think that's probably a reason why.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Good valid point. Okay, let's move on. 5-on-5. We've also in the last 2 weeks had heavy conversations on that. It looked like Sheldon is kind of backed off a little bit Saturday from it. Let's get his comments on his thought process on 5 forwards on his number 1 power play.
Just a matter of circumstance of what's in the game, what's going on. I mean, you start the second period, I think we had something like 38 or 39 seconds. To me, there wasn't quite enough to go with 5 forwards there. So we put Morgan in, and now it's a 2-1 game. And I thought the game was... I just didn't think at that moment that the risk was worth it. So it's just more of a matter of what was happening in the game.
See, that really surprises me.
Okay. Why?
Because he's been on this 5 forwards for a little while, and he's never once uttered the word risk.
Same. I thought the same thing.
Okay.
I was like, that was an admission. He finds it riskier.
Now, all of a sudden, it's as if, like, we that's all we've talked about for 2 weeks. This is the first time he's uttered risk and whether it's worth it or not. And that's our conversation for the last 14 days.
He should feel that way, though, right? Because you've said several times about the defending that you don't trust a forward defending as well.
Up until this weekend, it's almost as if that risk didn't even enter his thought.
Right. Yeah,
So
I think it did, but I think there's like a denial because he wants to do it and not get criticized for it, right? It's like
a river.
I believe it is. But yeah, he wants to say, well, other power plays get scored on too, even with a D-man out there. It's just the same thing. But that's just to kind of, you know, just so people won't be all over him for trying it. I do think that we haven't seen the end of it. I think it's like if it's not going in the power play. Here's one thing he said we don't have a clip of it, but one thing he did say was he could see them going to that 5-forward unit look. This makes no sense, but with the D-man. As in not a D-man up top, leave Marner up top and add a D-man on the flank or wherever. And I don't hate that.
But now you're every other power play.
You are. So I guess what you're saying is we might consider Mitch Marner as the top guy on your 1-3-1 that everyone else runs.
But if you're doing that, just put the 5 forward.
Do you really need to tell us that it is kind of 5 forwards, but it's not?
No.
Like just now you're back to what probably a lot of suggestions have been made over the past is get your power play moving. That's all.
Yeah.
Get more rotation. Don't have Morgan Riley so stagnant there at the top. Get him moving around. The guy that I found best over the last few years, I loved the most, was Torrey Krug on the Boston Bruins before he left for St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched that guy on the power play, and he would there wasn't an inch of ice that he couldn't picture himself if he needed to get to.
This is going to
make
sound
the power
crazy,
play go to work.
but I see some Torrey Krug and Mitch Marner, the way he darts and he gets in and out of spaces. And, my thought with Mitch Marner being up top on that power play is he's not a shooter, just like Riley, right? Neither guy is a shoot first kind of guy. So you kind of have Riley back there, but Marner's so much better at picking.
How many guys have his vision in the world right now?
Like 3, like next to none.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And he may be the best.
For sure. So it makes sense to me to say, what if Riley were a little better at that? What if he could distribute it a little cleaner, have a better sense of when to shoot it? So I don't mind having Marner there. It's, do you want someone to defend? You say Riley on the flank, but be ready to pull out if it comes the other way.
Did you hear what Simmer said on the broadcast on Saturday night, which I thought was pretty good as well, about Riley back on that unit, saying that, this may not be a route risk. This may not be about this. It may be about trying to get Morgan Riley going since he came back.
No. I'll give you the number one reason.
Which I thought was interesting.
Because there isn't a world alive where you think you're starting a $7.5 million contract on a defenseman and he's not involved. He's sitting his ass on the bench. It's ridiculous that you're going to go 5 forwards and that guy's going to sit and watch the whole thing.
7.5 is not 9.5.
I completely agree with Kyper here. I have to say,
okay.
you
paid him.
You guys are going to play guys because you pay them.
7.5 isn't the top. It isn't Darnell Nurse, which we know they completely overpaid there. But it's enough to say you are good at a power play. You're good at penalty killing, even strength, first and last minute of every period. You are it.
I can see them seeing 7.5 million. He only makes 5.5 this year, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? 5.5 this year.
Okay, get your money's worth and then trade him. Is that what you're saying?
No, but I can see as the salary cap goes up, the type of guy who is a PP1 quarterback in the NHL makes $9 and $10 million. And they say Riley's a guy who maybe he's our PP2 guy. Maybe he's not. He doesn't have to be. I don't think they think he's Erik Karlsson back there.
Well, they've had good power plays with him at the top of it.
Problem is it's losing Morgan. That's what it is.
You lose Morgan Riley?
Yes, you are. You're going to sit his ass on the power play, and you're going to watch Sandin or 5 forwards take your job, and you go to your coach. What am I doing here? Why am I even here? What do you want from me? And then I'm going to have the crowd all over me. Yeah. And it's like, no, you don't. I am paid to do this job and you don't want me anymore, then what am I doing here? Yeah. And that if that starts running rampant in your room, Sheldon's done, the team's done. You got to bring everybody together. Everybody needs to feel good about their role and the pecking order in the room. Yeah. That's how you win championships. Not sitting a guy like that on the bench.
That's it. That's exactly why he's back on the power play. I do think that Sheldon wanted to give his 5-forward look enough reps that, let's say Morgan is the quarterback and they go 2 games in the power play and they're 0 for 8. Listen, where they say, we got to do something else, man.
You're not wrong.
You got your chance to be the number 1 guy.
And if it hits, you look like a genius, I guess. I don't know.
But you just need to have a plan B. Plan A for 3 years in a row has been garbage in the playoffs. You need to have a plan.
Okay. Maybe. Yeah, I'll buy into that.
But they did go back to him for the reason you're saying, in my opinion, which is we can't have him just going, well, I got 0 goals.
And you're right. And now they've tried the 5, and you're in the first round. You need a big goal.
We've done it.
And it's like, well, we've tried 5-4s. Maybe we try to shake it up here. We've done it a lot with you, Morgan. We want to try this luck here. I think there's maybe more to go back on. But in games, like to Kipper's point, in these games against crappy teams in the regular season.
Don't you want to try it? Give it some run, the 5 forwards, before you try it in playoffs?
Don't you want to get Morgan some confidence back there?
It's more important to me to have your number one quote-unquote defenseman feeling good, playing well, than establishing this power play that no one else does ever, to me.
And I would say we have triangulated the issue of why he was off it, now he's back on it.
Mm-hmm.
I think Keefe is on board with all this. This makes sense.
Because he's been listening to us.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Keefe on Tavares from Saturday night. Let's have a listen.
Seems to have a little more jump in his step, a little more confidence with the puck. I don't know what to attribute it to. I think it's, he's like a lot of players or most players in the league that kind of, your play kind of goes up and down, and seems like he's on the rise here right now, and his confidence, looks good. I don't know if the time off and the break and all that kind of stuff maybe takes a little bit to get going. I certainly think that's the case with our team. I thought that segment in the second period was the best that it felt behind the bench in quite a while in terms of the pace and how it was all coming together from one shift to the next. And I could see that with some of the individuals as well, John included.
Wow, I found that interesting too. Twice he mentioned confidence.
For Tavares.
So he thinks he lacks confidence?
I mean, he was a point per game guy till he hit a little skid. I'm not sure how he would get there, but you've played, I've played. We've all had some sense of it just doesn't work for you for a while and you don't hang on to it as much or whatever.
And the jump issue too, right?
That's the one for me that's visible. But it's been, a couple of good games against lesser teams, albeit. But the pass, by the way, he makes to Matthews on the goal, the wrist roll fadeaway, that's a unbelievable pass.
Through the legs, under the stick.
Unbelievable.
What I've noticed too, even before Christmas, is the way Sheldon has kind of allocated his lines when they're putting them out there. I brought this up to you weeks ago that I'm watching offensive zone faceoffs. I'm seeing third and fourth line guys go out there after even commercial breaks, and
Matthews is getting a ton of offensive zone starts.
But not Tavares and Marner.
No.
Like I asked you before the show just to give me the even minutes, and after the first period, do you know what Tavares and Marner had for ice time after the first period?
I mean, I know Marner's total even strength ice time.
Yeah.
So at even strength, I'm guessing it's like 4 minutes or something.
No, overall minutes.
Overall minutes was
Because there were no penalties in the first.
Right.
So it was just even strength minutes.
Well, I know Marner's even strength minutes for the game were 15. Was what, 7?
7.
7 even strength minutes?
7.5 maybe.
Yeah.
I think that's what you showed me.
Yeah,
7.5 minutes. But Tavares and Marner had 3.5 minutes in the first period.
Of even strength?
Well, just minutes.
Minutes total.
Total minutes.
Yeah. So what do you think that's about?
I don't know. Maybe he feels like John's workload is too much. And he's pulling him back.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's like...
Would you not want to see that, though? Or does it make you concerned about Tavares?
I'd rather him give him the day off than play him 3.5 minutes in the first period. But then, it's a double-edged sword.
He gets his 3 points.
He gets his 3 points.
Team,
Does he feel good about it? But there's something there. You can't tell me that there's, listening to his comments, noticing that he only played him 3.5 minutes in the first period, all but Austin Reese and Wayne Simmons had more ice time than John Tavares.
Yeah.
Last night had to be Marner's lowest for the season.
15 minutes. See,
it has to be.
But to me, this is you're the coach. Give the guys the breaks when you can. You win a game 6-2 against a bad team.
Love it. That's how you load manage.
Yeah.
Right? That's how you're making your top guys play less in a game where, they're kicking the crap out of a bad team, and you get to play. Like Simmons, what did he play? Probably almost 10 minutes.
8:30. 8.5, yeah.
Zach Aston Reese almost played 10 minutes. Like, I think that's the way you kind of
Push for Pontus with a one-handed assist.
Yeah.
On the Aston Reese goal. Aston Reese's first goal in 19 games, 18 games, 19 games, something like that.
Tavares played 13 minutes last night.
Who did?
Tavares.
Total, yeah.
Total. 13-30.
13, and he ended up with what, 2 and
3 goal and 2 assists.
a goal and 2 assists.
That's a dream night for Tavares and Keefe.
Yarncrok was 12:47 with a goal and 2 assists.
Listen, he ends up with no points, playing 13.
Yeah.
And they lose.
Different.
Hair's on fire.
For sure. But if you're down 4-2, you put them out there more. I think that's, part of it is that game management.
Do you want to talk about Yarncrok?
Cali fornication out there?
Let's go to Sheldon Keefe on Yarncrok, because I've been pretty adamant on how I feel about this.
Okay.
So he's played a lot better for us since he's come back from the injury. I think the time with the injury really helped him, just get really comfortable here. You come into a new team and you kind of arrive shortly before training camp, and then things are moving real fast, and you got a young family and stuff, and your new team, new organization, new teammates, all that. It takes some time. I think the injury actually really helped sort of settle things down, allowed him some time to get comfortable, allowed him some time to really just, work at his game. And I think since he's come back, he's been terrific, and he complements those guys well, like we talked about last night. He does a good job defensively, and, puck comes to him, he can make a play on it. And, when he's the trigger guy, he has the ability to finish. So we like those qualities about him, and he did a terrific job in the penalty kill tonight as well.
You like Cali?
Best 12-minute performance of all time.
Second line left winger.
No. There's not a world.
11 points in 10 games.
There's not in my world do I see playoff success with Yarncrok as a top 6 forward for you.
I got bad news. I like him.
I like him with good players.
Yeah.
I don't know if I love him down the lineup as much.
He has not been
We
great.
do not agree.
He's not been last night. For sure, Mitch put one on his platter there, but
unbelievable play by Marner.
That's
ridiculous pass.
The majority of his points have not come off Tavares and Marner. They haven't.
Right, during the stretch.
And they have not looked good, in my opinion.
No, they're
really
good defensively.
Yeah, really good defensively, not good offensively.
Yeah, they don't.
Oh my God, that's okay. We'll try to win against Boston and Tampa Bay 1-0.
No, I'm not saying that's good. I'm just saying that they haven't been awful in all situations. But yeah, you'd want Marner and Tavares to be good offensively.
Yeah,
I think it's interesting that he said that he's been better since the injury. Like it was the right time for him to
get
be
hurt?
around to get hurt, to be around the room, get to know the medical staff, your surroundings, stay home with your family a little bit, watch some games from above, and then come back and attack again. I don't know. $2.5 million or whatever he makes, 2.25.
But we're also not screaming at the top of our lungs here, but you'd like to see another body come in at a top 6, and that would take Yarncroft's spot.
Yeah.
So which one is that, Sammy? You like him or you don't like him?
I think he's fine when you're playing crappy teams in the regular season. I don't think he's the solution in the playoffs, but when you're for right now, you can make it to what's the trade deadline?
March 3rd.
You can make it to March 3rd with Kelly Yarncrok playing on your second line.
He is career high is 15 goals. He's on pace for 20 now. I like that he works hard, he skates well, and he's a hard shot. He's hard on the puck to me. He's a lot of things I like. I get why you don't see him as an adequate winger. He's not providing anything offensively for Marner or Tavares. There's nothing that is helping those guys aside from someone who can get the puck and finish the chances when they come and do the little things that he leaves it up to John and Mitch and says, I'm not going to be a liability. And he's not.
I think they're getting their money's worth with Kelly Yarncrok.
Well, yeah, there's no debate about that. I mean, he's been 2.25 for sure.
Yeah.
They only get their money's worth when they're out of the first round.
What do you mean? They only get their money's worth. I don't know. He's been fine.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like I said, I don't think it's a long-term solution. I do think that they're going to bring in a more impactful guy to play in the top 6. But until then, Cali is just fine to me.
Yes, he's the best of a tough situation, I think, up front.
You see that Dubas and Pridham were at a Flyers-Coyotes game the other day?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, Dubas only trades with
Coyotes.
the Coyotes, so yeah, he has to go down there and see
one more for me. I like Wayne Simmons a lot better than watching Hunt and
No way.
and Austin Reese. Last night was better for me as a fourth line. And I'm not saying that Wayne Simmons is the answer, but I'm saying that type of body or that type of look is better for me than watching two 5'11" guys run around like water bugs.
You can talk me out of Aston Reese. I'm on Team Hunt now. But you can definitely talk me out of Aston Reese if you think you're getting something. At least Simmons provides a chirp you, fight you, not a bluffer, a guy who is not a bluffer. And I'm not saying Aston Reese even bothers with that. He doesn't seem to have, he's a robot as far as I can tell. So yeah, I get that.
You know who Flyers' best line was, right?
Fourth line.
No. Did they have a good one?
It was their big fourth line.
Oh,
Thank you.
Delorier?
100%.
Thank you.
They're three
They
big.
gave-
they're mutants.
they-
those
Delorier's a
guys.
good player
Yeah.
in that role.
They gave the Leafs some trouble when they were on the ice.
Yeah.
I hate to say how many times I've agreed with Kyper today, but I agree having a big guy in the fourth line was a bit of a breath of fresh air. It was. Like
yeah.
it just was like, oh, this guy, he looks pissed off.
I get that.
But I agree with you. If I'm doing it next time, it's Hunt and Simmons as opposed to like I have Zach Aston Reese has not sent me a Christmas card. I wouldn't say he's my. I've been overly nice to him since he's been on the Leafs.
I feel like I've tried for Zach Aston Reese.
He
I've
scored
tried
last night.
I've tried to go to bat. Like his defensive numbers are great and like all this stuff, but like he just doesn't seem to have a pulse. Like doesn't the old what would you say you do here?
Just
Very
lacks a little emotion.
Yes,
agree.
And we talked about that. His previous teams basically said
Yes.
if you could give him a little shock collar and get the best of him once in a while, you'd love him. But tough.
Okay, let's take a quick break. We got Gord Stellick coming up after the commercial break. He'll verify everything I said in the first 40 minutes,
Like it.
or at least
We'll get him
maybe
to
half,
vet our opinions.
a quarter. Gord Stellick after the break. You're watching and listening to Real Kyper and Bourne.
From the City News 680 Traffic Center, I'm Ari Rabinovich, and we're looking at some problems on the eastbound 403 in Burlington. It's a crash at the ramp to Fairview and Plains Road and the QEW involving a tractor trailer, and that ramp is currently blocked. It's causing a delay on the East 403 from before Waterdown going towards the 403 QEW junction in the Burlington area. Also watch out for some tire debris on the eastbound 409 east of Martin Grove in one of the center lanes, but MTO have been notified. Crestwood Preparatory College provides a learning environment and community that helps each Crestwood student optimize their current and future success. Apply by February 8th at crestwood.on.ca.
This is Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
All right, as promised, Gord Stellick now joins us. How was your New Year's?
My New Year's was kind of quiet. I worked. My family was in Mexico, enjoying the week. So I was home with Dog Blue and played a little tennis and all that good stuff. It was a great December. Great seeing everybody again, Kippy and Justin. And, first normal Christmas in about 3 years. How was yours, Kyper?
It was fast. It was good.
Yeah.
Much like the Leafs, it started off really well, and maybe the last few days I wanted, a lot of quiet
Ready
back
to move on.
into my life.
What about Justin? Justin, you got how old are your kids?
My kids are 6 and coming up on 3.
Oh,
my God.
you're in it. You're in the big,
that's a
aren't you?
grind.
It's peak Christmas season. The elf on the shelf is zip lining from the lamp to the tree.
That's a 2-hour practice with no pucks.
So
That's what that is.
Kippy, you and I are trying to get our kids up by Boxing Day at this stage.
So let's start with the goaltending. It's taken a good portion of our start here on Monday. Gord, did the goaltending do enough for you in terms of calming the waters? Will we, between now and the trade deadline, still listen to conversations about the Leafs potentially looking for goalies? I say that window's closed from here on in.
Yeah, I think I think that you are, you're going to get a marginal third string goaltender, a David Riddick again, or something like that. You do want a third goaltender for depth reasons to be your possible Jeff Zatkoff if you go a little deep and have some injuries. So maybe Joseph Wall finally can be that, if he's healthy, can be that player. But so Kippy, I agree with you. You're not in the equivalent of whatever the Marc-Andre Fleury talk is this trade deadline. But I just thought yesterday, and I get what he's doing, but Sheldon went a little overboard. The goaltending to me was not the difference in yesterday's game. I was a little surprised they got outshot by one shot. First goal was soft, but and the goaltending has been ordinary since whatever that date is, December 15th. But that run before that was what I needed to see that these guys can do it. And again, as we know, when the playoffs happen, if someone gets in that Yaroslav Halak mode like he did for Montreal those years ago, you're screwed. I don't care whether it's the opposing team or the Toronto Maple Leafs, whomever. And they have not since the Curtis Joseph, Ed Belfour era had let a goalie win you a series. Come on, be a difference maker in a playoff series. So
That's allowed.
Like I said, I'm not doing cartwheels, but I am sold that these are the two guys you're going to the playoff dance with.
So, do you think there's any chance they want to see Woll get some NHL games? Just just to see, maybe comes up, he's good, and they go, boy, we could move on from Samsonov and spend his money.
But why? Why?
To
Why
save
not?
$900,000 and spend it on a better player.
You may need him. You may need him, Kippy. I think try everything now. Like try the 5 forwards on the power play. Do what try different things in the regular season to if it makes a difference in one playoff game.
But think about the message you also send Matt Murray and Samsonov. If you watch,
who cares? It's a business.
No,
it's a business.
Care.
This is the guy you're developing. You haven't developed a goaltender from within.
I'm here to tell you guys that players care, and it matters in the room.
Oh, you're telling the wrong two people. Go on another station. Go to CHFI and cut into the easy music listing. Tell them players care. We know here. We know.
You lose, Gord. You're a general manager. Can't lose players.
I understand that.
They quit on. They'll quit on you.
Oh, if they quit, I want those players gone. Those players are going to quit. I'm just saying, if you're talking about a goaltender of, and okay, there should be, let's face it, one of the goaltenders will have a little bit of a, okay, so Kippy, I'll soften it now and I'll apologize. I'll tell you to go to Easy Rock then, okay? Anyway, that you basically, you'll have a point where one won't be 100%, so you'll get a chance to call Joseph Wall up instead of Eric Shalgren. How about that? I'd like to see him get a couple of games in anyway. And I'm sure the brass
in
wants
April,
to see
you
that
want to
as well.
throw a couple of guys a night off. I get all that. It has to be timed well, but the message has to be clear that this isn't because we don't believe in you. This is because of blah, 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 blah. And I'm not saying that they'll quit. I'm just saying they'll quit believing in you. That's a big difference.
Well, and that's what I think Sheldon was trying to reinforce yesterday. And so the point is, like, do we as a fan base believe in them? There's not enough body of work and there's no playoff history. Matt Murray does with Pittsburgh, granted, to believe in you the same way what Leaf fans believed in Curtis Joseph or Ed Belfour, or Tampa Bay fans believe in Andrei Vasilevsky, and on and on and on. I mean, Colorado's gone the route about the goaltender that isn't the Vasilevsky type. You win a Stanley Cup and you move on somewhere else. So it's just got to be, we've talked about it forever. Good enough to give you a chance to win. If it's sensational, if it's great, that's a bonus. But it's got to be good enough to give you a chance to win. And we go over it every time, but, Freddie Anderson could not provide that in the playoffs for some reason.
So the Leafs have been holding open tryouts for second line left wing. They invite the public in, give everyone a couple of games, see who can swing it. Calle Yarncrok got his turn. He's got a bunch of points. He's looked pretty good. He's feeling more confident now. He's got his young family settled and stuff. We disagree on the show about Calle Yarncrok's value or place. What do you think about, could he stay there?
Yeah, I asked Kyle Dubas for an item for my kid's school, and it's a chance to play a second line left wing.
Cool.
Silent auction item is to play a second line left wing in an upcoming Leaf game. So very, very generous. Appreciate it. I like Calle Yarncrok. Sam doesn't like him, right?
Both Sam and Kyper.
I don't mind
humming and
It's not
hawing.
that I hate him. I just don't think that that's where you want to start a series against Tampa Bay with this guy as your second line left winger.
You can't lose these guys, Kippy. They get upset when they hear stuff like that.
I don't care what Yarncrok thinks.
Okay, to me, that obviously term-wise, this was the big commitment they made, and they're hoping. Okay, like Dennis Mulligan couldn't do it. Nick Ritchie couldn't do it. Michael Bunting embraced it. Zach Hyman was the perfect kind of player that, okay, in your top six, and Zach Hyman's top six, he was a super bonus because he could play all roles great. But Calle Yarncrok, if he can play adeptly, at that role like he has of late, and also it's not the easiest thing playing with great players all the time, and it's a small sample size, but I've liked him better than some of the others that have not exactly wowed me, starting with Mulligan, who I know is gone now.
Nick Robertson, Mulligan.
Well, Nick Robertson, I still he just gets hurt so much. I'm still big on the Nick Robertson. I got to see what gives. I do agree with you about Wayne Simmons. Again, I'm getting off topic. He shouldn't be on the second line, but I did like that look, or having that availability to have that look in your on ice roster last night. But right now, I don't say I'm bullish on Calle Yarncrok, but I'm fine with Calle Yarncrok on the second line.
I'm fine with that.
This is the consensus on Yarncrok from everyone is, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't a signing that
It's
gave
January.
It's so true. It's fine for now.
It's
They're winning.
January.
Yeah, I feel the same way like when Mason Raymond was signed. That kind of excitement, right?
Sure. He's a player.
Similar.
Yeah.
Connor Timmins got a nice chance last night with TJ Brody out of the lineup. Is this the way you see him as a 6th, 7th, or 8th defenseman?
Kippy, what a nice story, right? All you ever want, and you're the guys that played, is you want to get a chance, okay? And if you get a chance, can you seize it? If you get hurt, quite often you get behind the 8 ball and you never get that chance again, fairly or unfairly. And, he was going to go down to Arizona's American Hockey League team, and much of it was injury related. And probably the only reason I would think he got picked up by Toronto was all the injuries. And I really like this story about, if a guy adding as a depth D, providing unexpected offense. He's not a core 4 guy, or doesn't seem right now, but you never know. You never know sometimes these things. But I just think it took a lot of pressure off Kyle Dubas because, Kippy and Justin, if, they wouldn't say it, but when you lost all those D, like Brody and Muzzin and Riley and, throw Ben in and all that at the same time, like if you lost your next 4 straight games, you would be on the verge of you can't necessarily go get Chikrin or Klingberg right off the hop, but you would have had to make a trade you probably didn't want to make to get just a decent journeyman NHL body in for like 10 games through the tough time, and you were able to basically get this guy say nothing, sorry to the player that went the other way, but the same right idea, and so he to me prevented or allowed them not to have to make a trade. They really, because I've been there before. I know, again, I always talk decades ago, but there was a guy named Mike Stothers, who's a really good guy, really good coach now. But once we got him from Philadelphia, just because we had a rash of injuries, and he filled in the rest of the year, went up and down between the NHL and the AHL level, but you had to get a body at that point.
Yeah, makes sense. The team has just hit the halfway point in the season. I think that was their 41st game on the year. I'm going to ask you put you on the spot with an overachiever and an underachiever because looking at this group, it's about where we thought it might be at the start of the season, but it's been a different way to get there than I think we anticipated. Who do you have as a guy who's overachieved expectations and someone who's maybe underachieved, Gord?
Well, considering, I heard you, I think you talked about Pontus Holberg, like, wow, like, who is he?
No kidding.
He's an all-star soon when we
push for Pontus.
Vote him in.
Yeah. It's kind of like Zach Hyman was a few years ago. I mean, you'd heard about Zach a little bit just because prominent Toronto hockey family and, things like that. But yeah, wow, he came from the Marlies and, didn't spend a lot of time toiling on the 4th line. So that would be that. And, I know some people are picking on Nick Robertson. We need more out of Kerfoot and Engvall. And they've been doing that a little bit lately, but we need more out of these guys. Like, we need our Nick Paul, we need our Cirelli, we need guys to make a difference in the playoffs. And on defense, it's kind of unfair to. I think Jake Muzzin, we knew there were health issues, and I think that just factors into the fact that it doesn't look like he's going to play this year. I shouldn't say that. It just doesn't look that. But obviously that factored in. So I don't even call it a disappointment. You knew that he was struggling with some health issues. But I look at those guys up front. They've been around for a while. Can you get the offense like Mikheyev did or whatever it may be, or just a little bit more? Like, everyone's just got to give a little bit more. They got to have 3-4 lines going in the playoffs. They got, like, you can't have an appreciable drop in ability each line. That was your Ranger team, Kippy. About every line you threw out there was a consistency to the 3rd line compared to the 1st line, the 4th line compared to the 2nd, and teams Tampa Bay does that, like teams that generally win it all. And that's what you got to get more for the Leafs. And I just want to see more of it in the regular season.
Gordon, we heard from Sheldon talking about Tavares' weekend. On 2 occasions, he mentioned he has more confidence, more jump. Is that something he's going to have to keep an eye on in the second half of the season? Are we talking about a guy that's never really, I don't think, had issues before in his career about confidence?
Yeah, well, that's interesting. Interesting Sheldon would say that. Like, Kippy, I just assume, he's always been the cat's ass. Number 1 overall pick. He was Mr. New York Islander. There was no bigger, free agent signing in recent years than John Tavares coming here. And I think whatever criticism has been on the softer side, it's been about that $11 million number when you compared it to the other guys making 11, and that's not his fault. I mean, really, like the fact he wanted to come to Toronto just spoke volumes. Okay, the fact that maybe so many guys making 11 at the same time caused a bit of a cap issue is not his fault. So I just assume he has all kinds of confidence. I like seeing a little emotion from him. I like seeing a little emotion from anybody. And Matt Sundin was a guy that sometimes got unfairly criticized, like not showing the Gary Roberts, Darcy Tucker, Dougie Gilmore, type emotion that we like to see. But I just love the way John Tavares is playing this year. A lot of it probably being back with Marner. Anybody plays with Marner is going to play great. That was his best year, the first year, 47 goals. So you found, or he's found a way, or they found a way to kind of get him to what seems to be his best level as a Leaf. The confidence I'm surprised about.
So looking at the division here, the Leafs humming along now, almost at a 700 winning percentage. The Bruins just win and win and win. I'm looking beneath them, though. Toronto and Tampa are likely slotted in. Do you like the Buffalo Sabres, Gord? This team is looking like they could climb their way into the postseason. They score a lot of goals. Interesting team to watch out for in the division that may be an opponent at some point.
Oh, I think, I was looking forward to Jack Eichel, Austin Matthews rivalries, and they had that Thanksgiving weekend where, Eichel and the Sabres stuck it to the Leafs just when I think the Bills beat Dallas the Cowboys or something on a Thursday game. So all was happy in the Paluga family. But the post-Jack Eichel era now, I really like this team. I really, really do. I've loved the Toronto-Buffalo rivalry. Like all these teams like pushing for the playoffs down the road. Detroit on the right track, Ottawa seemingly on the right track. Again, quite often that last little step is quite often proves to be a quantum leap. So we can see who can do that. I mean, that last step from being a vastly improved team to being one that's in the playoffs. But the Sabres, with all what's been going on, and again, right, Justin, it comes down to goaltending. Like which one of these teams gets goaltending that alone could be the deciding factor between Buffalo, Detroit, and Ottawa.
I thought this was the time when these teams that are on that fine line just bail for Connor Bedard.
Well, what's the point? You got like your first of all, as you know, if you're a player and you bail, that's great. You'll be watching Connor Bedard buying tickets in 2 years because you'll be out of the NHL because you'll be on a team that was terrible and got a reputation for tanking. We had a weird one in football, right? Like, did the Houston Texans coach get fired right after the game because he,
I think he probably knew he was done well before that.
I know, but the fact he got fired right after the game, that pisses me off. That never should happen. You should wait till the next day. Come on. And I think they got ticked that he, they went for a 2-point, whatever. But my point being is, if you go, to me, karma will bite you in the ass if you go and try in any way, shape, or form to tank or some portion thereof. If you come dead last, you still have a 1 in 4 opportunity. Good on the Blackhawks. They won 2 games on the weekend. They're only 2 points ahead of the Columbus Blue Jackets. But Kippy, you're 100% right. We all know that. There's no question. This is a very, very special draft lottery. The Leafs won a pretty special one too when they got Austin Matthews.
Gord, you're very special.
So special.
That's what it said on my report cards when they asked me to repeat the grade. So I don't know how to take it.
He's very special. Tries very hard.
Not willing to work with others. Gord Stellick. All right, pal. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for doing this.
Hey, I think it's too late, but Happy New Year still, guys, and all the audience. We'll talk soon. Take care, buddy.
Thanks, Gord.
See you guys.
What is the cutoff line?
Larry David does not like that.
What's the
Jan
cutoff
7th,
line?
I think, on the show is Larry David's cutoff. Is that right?
I think so.
You get 1 week.
We're 9.
You get 1 week of Happy New Year.
Yeah.
I go.
And then you're just not that important to have got you in the first 3 days or 4 days.
I go first business day after New Year, and then I'm
tight.
done.
That's tight. What if it's the first? The second's not the New Year anymore for you?
The first business day. Like, because
that's
it's usually
just-
it's a holiday
Okay.
the first, and then whatever is after that, I'll see people on the first Happy New Year, second Happy New Year, and then after that, I'm not saying
That's just a
anymore.
guilt. Happy New Year.
For sure.
We weren't worth it to him to text early.
I gotta, yeah. Do you want the text? Do you want the blanket text that goes out to someone with 600 contacts?
Yes, I do.
Can I be honest? I got a shockingly low amount of Happy New Years this year. Like, it's usually, like, it's been
Well,
going
they've
down
listened
year
to
over
this
year.
show,
Yeah, he's
obviously.
not helping your rep being involved with this show.
Disappearing Christmas.
Yeah, I
while
was
we
gone
work.
Christmas. I know. I know. Sorry,
Diamantes.
Do we first of all, tanking isn't it's not talked about in the NFL I know we everybody's talking about Houston right now, but it's not as prominent as the talk in the NHL about tanking for a top pick. Is that fair to say, Sammy?
That's a good question.
It's also like in the NBA, it's worth less. Like the first overall pick doesn't always move the needle the way it does in the NHL.
I don't really know, because it's like I feel like the NFL's talked about so much, but maybe not here. Like I don't consume it the same way as I do hockey talk, where we talk about tanking all the time. But I think it's harder to tank in the NFL. There's so many, there's so many guys on a team, and I don't know. I really don't know how to answer that question. But whatever I know is the Houston Texans yesterday, that was a debacle. How do you let that happen?
I didn't see it.
Oh my God, they went for 2.
What, trying to win? How do you let trying to win happen? Is that what you're saying?
If you're the owner, if you are the general, like, it's insane that you won that game. They won the game and lot out of the first overall pick. It's remarkably
That's
bad.
not good.
Remarkably bad.
Just
I saw Bears fans
just
celebrating.
the mere that you're having this discussion kind of turns my stomach a little bit. That you're talking about almost fixing a game.
You have to fix the game. If you're the general manager, you're like, oh, Davis
We're
Mills.
asking people to
he's got
bet their
hammy.
hard-earned money, and you're talking about fixing a game.
So have you heard?
That's not right, Sam.
But here's the thing. They reflect it in the gambling lines. If you're like, hey, none of our starters are playing, then the Colts become a 11.5-point favorite. Like, it changes the gambling thing. You have to announce what you're going to do, but you can't let your starters play that game. You have to do everything in your power to lose the game.
The NHL is probably going to have to announce their starters sooner.
Just like the Vancouver Canucks need to do everything they just like the Flyers, who need to do everything they can do to be bad.
Now, Kyper.
The Flyers?
Yes.
No, they're still thinking that they can be a 6th or 7th team in the playoffs. It's ridiculous.
They have no cap space. They are a cap team. 0.
Let's fix this where it doesn't reward teams that are bad.
Agreed. Have you heard
Let's
of
penalize teams?
The gold system? There's all these different ways to try to fight back against tanking. And the hockey theory that I have seen online is the second your team is eliminated from playoffs, every point you earn, whoever earns the most points from then on
has the best chance to draft.
You win. You get the first overall pick. You're playing for the pick. So your team's eliminated earlier because you're worse. You have more games to try to accrue those points.
So you're saying just flip the tanking part. Instead of the second half, tank in October.
You can declare.
Be bad at the start.
Be bad at the start.
In this system, you can declare out of the playoffs. You can do it right from the first game of the year. Say,
oh, that's so good for season ticket holders.
Well, they're playing to win every night. At least they're playing to win every game and earn points. Trying to get the top pick, which at least I'm entertained. I don't know. Better than watching team trying to lose.
I'm not saying it's a horrible idea.
Yeah.
I like the fact that you're thinking about ways
to incentivize
get
teams to
away
win
from the conversation of purposely trying to lose.
Yeah.
In a now gambling world. I think
it's just not even a gambling world, just a world where you should try to win hockey games. So you're a pro team.
It's just integrity.
Yes.
It's just all about integrity. And we've lost integrity.
And the integrity of the game.
Of the game.
Yes.
Of sport, of competition.
Yes. The point when the puck drops is everyone involved in your organization should want the team to win the game. Crazy concept, I know, but we are currently incentivizing the wrong thing.
Yeah, that's exactly it. If you want to not have that incentive for people, then fix it. I don't know if that way works either. There's no way to do it.
How about every team who misses playoffs has the equal chance to get the number 1 overall pick? You miss playoffs, you get a lottery ball.
One team has a down year. You've missed the playoffs by 1 point and then get Bedard.
Good for you. You're trying to win, though, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
But yeah. Are you going to be close enough to the playoffs? You're going to throw the last game or two of the year to get the pick rather than play in a playoff series?
I know we got to get to break. Yeah, but I'm watching the Flyers again last night, and who on this team are you either building around, or you think that you could trade for top value? I'm not sure there's anyone that I would be super excited about getting.
Travis Konechny has as many goals as Austin Matthews.
Perfect.
Number one.
Okay.
That's it. Carter Hart.
On a championship team, where do you have Travis? I've got him as a 6 to 9.
He's upscale Michael Bunting.
He's not a star.
Yeah.
And he's not a core guy. He is a support guy at the very best on a championship team.
Agreed.
Hayes, mid guy. Not
I love it. He's mid. He is mid.
mid.
Like, you know how much money he makes?
Where?
He makes 7.1 till 2025.
I'll put him at making the quarterback of the Leafs power play, apparently.
And then you traded for Ruotsalainen. You gave up a player, I forget his name. Robert Hagg?
Yeah.
A first
and a second.
A second. And then you gave him $5 million for 25 years.
5.1 till 2026, 2027.
Where are you going with this trade? What the hell?
This is the thing, is that they're trying to win now. They got Justin Braun was there.
Torts is the coach.
They got Torts is clearly a squeeze every last drop out of the guys for every point you can get guy.
Joel Farabee.
See, they should be deducted points for stupidity.
They're the type of team, yes. They should.
They shouldn't end up with a first pick overall because you don't know how to tank. You don't know how to win. You don't know anything.
What would you say you're trying to do here? They're genuinely
Playoffs.
All right.
They
I
rot.
think we got ourselves in enough trouble on this conversation.
Whatever.
All right, let's take a quick break. Bob Stauffer is going to bail us out of the East to go to the West. And the Oilers, the Flames, who would ever had Winnipeg leading the charge at the halfway point?
Shocker.
We'll get Stauffer to tell us that and more after the break. Listening and watching Real Kyper and Bourne.
is Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
When you aren't listening to Oilers Now, Bob Stauffer can be heard and seen as a panelist on NHL Hockey on Rogers Regional Broadcast for the Edmonton Oilers. Let's welcome in Bob Stauffer. Stauffer, thanks for doing this, man. How are you?
Not bad, Nick, except it's raining in Los Angeles. And, you know, when you live in Edmonton, which is the most northerly city on the planet of over 1 million people, you come down here, damn it, you want a little bit of sun out there. And we're in the same hotel as the Georgia Bulldogs entourage. And I don't know if you know this, but I'm a huge Alabama fan. And my buddy is our concussion specialist at his postgrad at Georgia. So he's a neighbor of mine, and we've been going at it for years. I've actually been to Sanford Stadium in Georgia when Atlanta was still in the NHL. So whereas last spring when the Oilers played the Kings here, you know, there were hundreds of Oilers fans down here. There are thousands of Georgia Bulldogs fans that have come down for the NCAA National Championship game. It's wild. Let's just say the hotel bar was full well past 4 a.m. last night, which is usually when I shut it down. So I was a little bit disappointed I couldn't get a seat at the table.
So all these football fans asking if the Oilers are going to hold on to the first wild card spot?
Not the ones from Georgia, but I do like screwing with them, right? Because as a former SID at a Canadian institution, we had a trivia contest back in 2004 in Calgary. We had College Sports Information Directors of America. The only time it was ever held in Canada. They all knew their own conferences, the American guys, but they didn't know outside of their own conferences. So I kicked their butt in this trivia contest, and they didn't know that I was also hosting an afternoon sports show as well. And I absolutely you lost to the Canadian guy in NCAA college football trivia. You should be embarrassed. We're going to do CIS or then CIS college hockey trivia. That's going to be we'll find out whether or not you guys know anything about the UNBV Reds or Mike Keenan and the then Toronto Varsity Blues and all that kind of. We'll see how you guys do in that. Oh, it was just beautiful, man. You guys would have loved it.
So, Staff, we were going through a pretty heavy conversation about the goaltending situation in Toronto. I got to ask you now with the Edmonton Oilers and Stuart Skinner, and clearly he's seeing some starts that he's never seen before. The games are going to get heavier. How ready is he on this, and how could a guy like Jack Campbell get back in there?
Well, one of the things that's happened with Jack Campbell is he's finally, after 10 years, modernized his equipment. He's made a significant shift in that regard. Yeah. And I just had Mike McKenna on my show from Daily Face-Off, and we talked about this. So Jack's last two starts have gone a little bit better. Skinner's going to start tonight. Skinner's wife is pregnant. It's their first child. Stuart's from Edmonton. He played for the same athletic club that I did as a kid. He was obviously better because he was actually good enough to play in the Western League, and I wasn't. But, the bottom line is he's going back after the game tonight to be with his wife. And so Campbell's going to get the starts, I would think, Wednesday and Friday against Anaheim and San Jose. It's, you know what, it's one of the storylines that, the Oilers, yet again, a very pedestrian first 40 games of the season, just like seemingly each of the last 4 years. And Campbell initially was a challenge for Edmonton. I mean, he can't have a sub-880 save percentage and have long-term sustained success with that. So he kind of lost the number one job to Skinner. You guys would like Skinner. He's big. He's 6'4". He's thick.
Oh, he's got some upside
for sure.
He's. I wouldn't say he has necessarily elite reflexes, but he doesn't have to be because he's positionally sound. And the biggest thing that you guys would like about him is he is the lowest maintenance guy. Like I could not handle. I don't like high-strung goalies, and I don't like goalies that stare down their defense after a giveaway or blown assignment or something like that. He's the antithesis of this. He is as chill of a 24-year-old netminder as you'll find anywhere. And, he always wanted to be an Oiler, and he's got a big chance to have a long. In Campbell's case, they got to the equipment's played a factor. He's been better in his last couple starts, and the Oilers have actually only given up 14 goals over the last 6 games. Like, they're not on the defensive level that Toronto was for that sustained run that the Leafs have had, but they're playing marginally better. Campbell's played marginally better, and Skinner's been one of the stories of the season for Edmonton so far.
You know, the Oilers confuse me, Staff. You know, they're a team I don't bet on, for, against. I just don't touch their games because I feel like I never know what you're going to get for that from that group. What are some of the challenges with consistencies? Why does it seem to me like they can beat good teams, they can lose to bad teams? You just don't seem to know what's coming.
One of the things that happens, Justin, I think, with Edmonton is they need to realize that when you have McDavid and Draisaitl, teams get up to play you.
Mm-hmm.
Every team. So when the Oilers are motivated to play, so like they won in Tampa Bay this year, and they've beaten Carolina. They won in Dallas. You know, like they've won some games against some good teams, and then you know where I'm going with this. So I think that they've got to ratchet up the level of the and frankly, the other thing is their defenses. They've missed Duncan Keefe on the back end for all the. And I know you have an analytics flavor to you. I do too. I have time for it. But when the Oilers made that deal, it got absolutely eviscerated in the Edmonton. Why would you take Duncan Keefe at full price and, the cap and everything else? Well, his play with Evan Bouchard in the second half of last season was a major storyline for Edmonton.
Yeah.
He really settled the team down, and they have not replaced him. Kulak's had to play basically second pairing left shot D minutes with Barry. Bouchard hasn't been the same player this year. He was sixth in the league in 5-on-5 scoring last year in terms of, factoring in time on ice. Like, I think he was 11th overall in the league in 5-on-5 scoring for defense, and then sixth if you factored in time on ice. So, I look at the defense of the team, wasn't good enough early. It started to improve. And then the other thing that was supposed to happen was they had a secondary wave of forwards that were supposed to come underneath McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman and Nugent Hopkins, because Kane's been out, and those guys just haven't delivered. Fogle, more so, frankly, Puljujarvi and Yamamoto. Jesse Puljujarvi is a conundrum I don't think we're going to get figured out here in Edmonton. I got to tell you that right now. But last year, Yamamoto had 14 even-strength goals at 5-on-5, and Fogle and Puljujarvi each had 9. That's 32. This year, that trio, who are now making $4 million more than they were last year, that trio has combined for 8 5-on-5 goals in the first 41 games. Like, they're at half the rate they were at the year before.
Right.
And even though the team's fourth in goals for, there's been times where, Yamamoto and Puljujarvi have played over 400 combined minutes with McDavid and Draisaitl this year. You got to have more than 5 even-strength goals between the two of them. Like, I'm sorry, like Derek Ryan plays 9 minutes a game. He has 5 even-strength goals, and Clint Costin was in the minors before they recalled him. He's got 5 goals. So it's, I could look to Jack Campbell's start. I could look for the team defense. It needs to be better, but they've also got to get some more secondary scoring support as well.
Okay, I want to get into that blue line, but first and foremost, is there any way to quantify what the loss of Evander Kane has meant to that pecking order that you just talked about?
No, because I think your fans get it. Because I think that, the listeners in Toronto probably a little bit exasperated. Like, the Leafs have run up against a different caliber playoff opponent than Edmonton. Like, Edmonton played LA last year without Drew Doughty and Victor Arvidsson, who was an important top 6 ad. Toronto's lost to some really good teams. Let's exclude Columbus in the bubble, but you take a look at, you lose to Tampa Bay. That's a good team. Boston, that's a championship pedigree team. You look at Edmonton, and they lose a Kane, and he gave them something that they didn't have. He changed the complexion of their functional toughness in the top 6 with an edge and a goal scorer's mentality. The guy scored 35 goals in 58 games last year, Nick, between the regular season and the playoffs. And he gave, I hate the word swag. I think of the Winnipeg Blue Bomber swagger, right? Well, whatever. Like, he gave them some juice,
Yeah.
And they're not the toughest team to begin with. And I know that the criticism of the Leafs is they haven't had a playoff-type team because they haven't had enough toughness in the lineup. You got to have functional toughness these days, and Evander Kane brought functional toughness to the Edmonton Oilers.
They're going to get him back well before, I think, the playoffs, right?
They're going to get him back well before anybody thought.
Yeah.
He's on this road trip right now. Like,
yeah.
he's been around. He said, "I'm a quick healer." I think he's going to try to talk his way in a plane next week against Seattle. I don't think they're going to let him, but I do think the Oilers have a break between January 28th and February 7th. And I think he's going to try to play in the third week of January when Edmonton's at home against Columbus, and he's a month and a half ahead of schedule.
Stauffer, it's always fun when that analytics community you reference goes to war with, whatever the other side of the debate is. Jesse Puljujärvi's been that guy for you guys, hey? Is he going to get traded out of there? You're right. You can't play that much with great players and not produce, but the numbers like him. What are your thoughts?
The numbers haven't liked him as much this year.
No. Are they down?
Yeah, and I'm going to say this right now. Like, Edmonton has to commit to resources on the analytics. Not every team has to have what Toronto has. Like, Toronto invests a ton in that regard, but I think the Oilers do have to. It can't all be gut analytics. There has to be a combination of the two. It has to be used, and there's teams that do a good job of it that don't talk about it. Colorado,
yeah,
right. Like, I get it. New Jersey, Florida is a heavy analytics team, and they changed the culture of their team of the trade, and suddenly they've gone from being the President's Trophy winner to a team that's probably in a worse position to fight for a playoff spot than Edmonton. Like, I'm fairly confident the Oilers are still going to finish somewhere between 47 to 52 wins. They're not tracking or trending for that right now. But with Puljujärvi, I would be surprised if he finished the year in Edmonton.
Is there anybody that believes that the Oilers can have success with Darnell Nurse and Cody Ceci as their number one pair, and then backed by Tyson Barrie and Kulak?
I got to get another defenseman, Nick. You know that. Justin knows that. All your listeners know that, and I expect that to happen.
Okay, so tell me, like, what's it going to cost them to get that guy? Because it's a significant pickup, I think, to take them to another level, and it's going to cost them what? Yamamoto, Dylan Holloway, who?
Who are we talking? Like, are we talking Jacob Chychrun? If it's Jacob Chychrun, I'm led to believe it's two number ones, and not a prior number one, but two future number ones because of the sort of time frame that Bill Armstrong is trying to build in a number two. So obviously they'd have to take some money back in that deal to make it work for Edmonton. You guys tell me. We have this debate with our listeners every day. If I'm one of the top end forwards, I want another guy that can transition the puck. See, I have a simple theory. The less time you spend in your zone, the better your chance is to win.
You might be onto something.
If you have, I think the game's changed. I think from 10 to 12 years ago, maybe you wanted, two really good transition/transport defensemen and three or four guys that could stop cycles. And I wonder if today's game is more about having three or four guys that could outlet or transport the puck up the ice, and maybe just one or two guys that are more defensive-minded in nature. So, do you want Joel? Do they want to get in on Edmondson? He's been hurt a bit. He doesn't move the puck well. Gavrikov in Columbus, he can stop a cycle, but you watch his puck skills. He's had some games where, he's had some of the worst defensive games analytically in the league the last couple of years. Or do you step up for Chychrun and get a guy that's got an offensive dimension? Some people might think he's too much like Darnell Nurse. So I think fans in Toronto get it. Darnell Nurse capitalized. Like, the Oilers have never really replaced Oscar Klefbom. Oscar Klefbom's supposed to be in the last year of a 7-year deal at $4.25 million.
Wow.
He has been a substantial loss for Edmonton. Right. Like, when Ken Holland came here, you guys, he had three top four defensemen. He had Klefbom, an emerging Darnell Nurse, and then he had Adam Larsson. And you guys know Larsson's father suffered a heart attack in Edmonton after a 30-hour travel day, and he just wanted to move on. And it was understandable. Like, he chose to go to Seattle. They never even discussed money with Edmonton. So, but the loss to Klefbom was a killer because it also, allowed Darnell Nurse to be like, the Oilers were prepared to walk away from Kane and Dan Milstein in the summer. They couldn't do that with Darnell, especially also given the fact that, Darnell and Connor are pretty tight as well. So Darnell was going to get paid. And his camp won that negotiation. And unfortunately for Darnell, he's not on the world's best power play on that first unit, so he doesn't get an inflated 15 or 18 points a year to take him from, say, high 30s, low 40s into the mid 50s, where maybe that number appears to be more palatable at $9.25 million.
Yeah, it's funny how that makes a difference. They grab a couple of free points, and all of a sudden everyone goes, 50-point guy. I want to get your thoughts before we let you go on the other team in Alberta. What's up with Calgary? You think they're for real or not? They can't seem to find any traction. They lose to the Blackhawks on Sunday. What's going on there?
I think Calgary's going to be fine. I think they're going to add another 4. Yeah, can 5 teams out of the Pacific make it? I don't know. I think the Oilers are going to have to. The one thing I know is the last 3 years, Edmonton's second half of the seasons have been way better. They've been 650, 675 points percentage over the last 3 seasons in the back half. They usually start the year well. They have a swoon from the middle of November until the end of December, and then they pull it together in the second half of the year. They're going to need to do that again. But I think the Flames have got, I got to tell you, I think the Flames have got a pretty good team. Brad Treliving, even though Kachuk's a hell of a player, he won that trade all day. And they're going to add another forward. The Oilers will be adding a defenseman and 1, if not 2, bottom 6 forwards by the deadline.
So whose heart gets broken? Seattle's? Colorado's? They can't miss after winning it.
No, Colorado's going to get their guys back, and then they're going to trade for a center. Like they're going to be in on O'Reilly of St. Louis. Never write off St. Louis because they've appeared to be dead before, and then they get back in the race. But let's just say they're not, and they decide to move O'Reilly. Jonathan Toews in Chicago to Colorado, or O'Reilly to Colorado, or even Horvat. Who knows? But I think Edmonton and Calgary both make it. Maybe I'm delusional, but I wouldn't write the Flames off. That's for sure.
All right, pal. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for doing this.
Call anytime, guys. Take care.
Thanks,
Stauffer on the Edmonton Oilers. So he thinks Edmonton gets in, Calgary gets in, and St. Louis or Seattle falls off the face of the earth in the back half.
I think there's a lot of people counting on Seattle falling off the face of the earth. Problem is they still exist, and they're playing pretty darn good hockey.
4 in a row. They've won.
4 in a row.
They
just beat Ottawa 8-4.
Go into Toronto. They go into Ottawa, and they look deep.
22, 12, and 4, plus 17 goal differential.
They look big and deep.
They have 4 lines. They got some D.
To me, there's one playoff spot in Alberta.
Yeah, I think that might be a really good point.
I don't know. Like, I just can't. I don't think St. Louis is getting back into it. I think they're probably going to pivot here.
We believers in the Kings?
I believe in the Kings. I do. Well, their goal differential, but yeah. I like a lot of their guys. I think they'll be in the conversation. But to me,
it's going to be
because Colorado's going to
free for
Stauffer nailed it. They're going to get their guys back. They're going to make a trade. They're going to get hot. They're going to be in the playoffs.
Colorado, Edmonton, Calgary, Seattle, LA,
the goaltending,
Minnesota,
the goaltending
Winnipeg.
For Colorado, I think would still make me nervous.
They've been pretty good. I was looking at this last week.
Yeah.
Like they were surprisingly high.
But it would, the thing about we're going to be good later is you don't know what's around the corner. And I think to the New York Islanders, who started last season on a 13-game road trip, and the whole thing was, tread water. And then after that, you got this huge home schedule. Then they get COVID. They're brutal. And the season's over. With Colorado, it's like they're putting themselves in a position where it all has to go right. It's not guaranteed to all go right.
You're right. They have to make up the points that they've lost, and that's not always easy. But
they're not that far out of it by any stretch.
West is so bad.
It is.
Get the Leafs in the Western Conference.
In fact, by points percentage, they're actually in Colorado.
Get the Leafs back in the West.
Did we touch on Boston sweeping?
Briefly,
but
they swept it? Have they played all their games out there?
LA, San Jose, and Anaheim. What was the final in Anaheim?
7-1. They won by a touchdown in the third game of a long road trip.
I love how, remember when was that Thursday? We're like, they got to go out to California. Uh-oh.
What is the Boston
Bruins?
Bruins?
Bang, 3-0.
What are the Boston Bruins thinking with Pasternak right now?
Pasternak scored 7 goals in California in 3 games.
Like, what do you say? Like, I wouldn't even look forward to that negotiation.
Do you consider Boston your hometown? You do. That's great. Have you heard of discounts?
He's already been on a discount. He's played his contract he's on now has been a massive discount.
I'm just saying what you say to him.
They're in makeup time. They're making up for lost time.
They might have to let him go. No, because all those other guys are gone too. Berge is going to go, isn't he? Bergeron going to leave?
the sense is that they wanted to stick around for one more crack at this.
Bergeron for another?
I think Krejci could get talked into another year,
Yeah.
but I don't know, could they pull a? No, they can't. They're going to do well.
They have so many
What were
UFAs.
you
next
gonna
year.
I was
say?
going to say if they pull a Tampa Bay and get swept in the first round, does that blow everything up in terms of those two guys coming back? I just can't see it.
I feel those Jenga blocks are teetering and they keep removing pieces and they're just fine. But I feel like one of them, like a Bergeron retirement, is going to knock the whole tower over.
They have
But
so many
Pasternak-
UFAs next year.
But Pasternak can help save that transition, and McAvoy.
Yeah. I mean, he can. It's going to
How
be.
bad do teams have to get now in their transition mode? Like, it's so.
Yeah, it sucks. The
So-
teams have to bottom out or something.
I don't know. I mean, I had most recently, I just remember when the New York Rangers, how long ago was that? Remember that letter?
Yeah, I do.
And everybody was just crapping all over them. What did it really take that window for the Rangers?
Like 18 months later, they were good again.
Under 3 years.
Was that what it was? Yeah.
Under 3 years, where they were able to kind of tell everybody we're not going for it, and we're hoarding in these assets, and be patient. And then 3 years later, they're relatively competitive hockey club, and they went out and they signed Panarin. They traded for Zibanejad.
What was the Leafs bottom out? Like they're in playoffs in 2013. They bottom out 2 years later, and they're in playoffs the year after, right? That's pretty impressive bottom out and turnaround. I just think of teams like,
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I think of teams like Chicago and how they fight the bottom out for so long and they try to keep your head above water. And it just doesn't seem sustainable. The Kings had to bottom out after their success. Like Tampa's medicine is coming, boys. They are going to pay for trading firsts for everyone's like, oh, Gaudreau and Hagel and Coleman. Great. Very, very true. It was worthwhile, but they're going to pay.
But they don't have the salary cap down there, so it should be fine.
That's a good point.
They play without the cap.
Somehow they're a capless team.
If Horvat ends up in Boston, do you see Boston sucking in 2 years if they lose Bergeron?
If you're asking me if I can see
and Krejci, if they lose those two guys and they find a way to trade for Horvat and get him, it's a pretty good transition.
Yeah, but if you're asking me if I can see Horvat on a bad team, like he's on the Canucks, it's not like I don't think Horvat alone is enough to protect them. If it's Horvat and Pasternak and aging Marchand and the end of Taylor Hall's deal,
Marchand's not going anywhere for the next 3 or 4 years. He's a top player.
He is, but I will say,
But you have to sign him.
this is one of those things that's illegal to say, and everyone's going to be mad at me for it. But like Brad Marchand he's a point per game guy this year after being well above a point per game guy for quite some time. Like maybe he's slowing down a little bit.
Absolutely killing them.
Well, see, this is the thing.
They're
This is
having
it.
a tough go.
Well, this is the thing. Do we want to acknowledge that maybe he's slowing down a little bit? He was a 100-point guy.
He's got just next year or 2 more years on his deal.
His contract expires in 2025, 2026.
Okay,
At
so he's got 2 more
6.5 or
years.
Something. Yeah, no, I'm not saying he's.
Yeah.
But if he's continuing
turning
to get this
35
much
in May.
worse, what's that?
He is turning 35 in May.
Turns 35 in May. Yeah.
I mean, if we're
See,
talking about
that's
Tavares at 31.
That's a hard negotiation now
For
what you pay Marchand on his next deal.
yeah, you got a couple of years to figure out
I
what he's
know.
looking like, but yeah,
He missed his window too.
to get paid. Oh,
Yes.
honestly, he really did.
He
was on Hart Trophy ballots for multiple years there.
Yeah,
Unbelievable player.
he could have, timing's everything in life, as they say, but he missed his window to become a long-term 10 million plus guy.
As he should have been. Bergeron's got 33 points in 40 games. It's very good. He's going to get 70 points, but he's had higher numbers.
That guy, if he chose, could have signed somewhere else for probably 2 years at $18 million.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you guys want a
Oh,
wild?
God, who wouldn't have been
Right?
that?
You guys want a wild Patrice Bergeron stat?
Yes.
He's played 472 minutes of 5-on-5 this season, and the opponents have scored 9 goals. 1.15 per 60
They honestly
minutes.
need to name the Selke after him while he's still playing.
He's definitely getting it again.
Yes.
Anaheim's another
Okay.
bad team too. Oh
Yeah,
my
they
goodness.
They're minus 73 goal differential this year.
So JD asked Sam some questions about the Leafs. Can I ask you some
Yes.
halfway through the season questions? What do you think
Absolutely.
the story of the Leafs season is so far? What is the overall, the big picture story? My vote is goalies. I said the goalies are the story. Sam disagreed with that and said, what did you say, Sammy?
Just the death march to Tampa.
The death march to Tampa is the
How
story
you
of the
can't
season.
really enjoy anything because it's just, you know what the prize is at the end of the year.
It's like someone cauterized your taste buds and you just can't taste food
you just-
anymore. There's no joy.
I'd probably say for me, Willie Nylander.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Being
Just kind of solidifying that you put so much stock in 4 guys, and he was kind of the last one to truly arrive. And I think he's arrived.
that's good. MVP, I think we'll all
Sammy?
agree.
No, I think that's fair. I would say that he's gotten to a level that I never thought he could get to this year. Willie.
Yeah.
See,
He's gone a step above what I thought he would be.
I think most hockey people would have said that that's the level we've been all waiting for a very long time.
Interesting.
If you get 40, 50, 90 for 6.9 million or whatever,
Yeah.
that's a hell of a
Talk about Marchand's deal being a steal.
It's a hell of a deal.
Yeah.
But keep in mind that he's looking for a new contract as early as July.
Yeah.
So
And he's just
That-
rooting for Pasternak, eh? He's
that-
like, go, Pasta, go.
And it's going to start with a 1.
that
Huge
changes
number.
everything in terms of where this whole picture goes moving forward.
So I got 6 categories. Number 2 is MVP. Are we around the table and unanimous here on this, Marner?
I just think overall, when you factor in the penalty kill and the ask on Marner, and I think last night's another example where, like, if you look at Seattle or St. Louis, if Mitch Marner is not there, they don't win.
Yeah.
He shows up, he plays, he makes that play to Yarncrok last night. This team only goes when Mitch Marner goes. If Mitch Marner's not going, they stink.
All right. Which brings one of the questions that JD had was confusing storyline or something that a little confusing. And that for me is Matthews being 17th in the NHL in goals. Scored his 20th goal last night. You know, he's 13 behind Connor. You got guys ahead of him like Konechny being one of them. Tied with some 17th in the league in goals for a guy who
Tied
just
with
got
Zach
60. Tied with Zach Hyman.
Mm-hmm.
That's confounding to me. And we can't pretend like it's just like, but his defense is better. It's weird. Anything for you?
Yeah, I'm right there with you and everyone else saying that his overall play has dropped.
Yeah.
Or at least the consistency of being that constant threat is not where it's been in his 60-goal season or even in years prior.
Mm-hmm.
There are times when he just looks ordinary. And that shouldn't be the case for the guy that's often been regarded as the second best player in the world.
I think his defensive play has gone up a level though this year to me. Like I don't think it's the reason that his offense has gone down, but I do feel like he's more responsible even than he has been in years past.
Yeah, his defensive game is great. He's a great defensive center.
And I will say this because I have gone on record on this show, and I don't know if you guys remember, but I told you if his goal scoring drops off.
Preseason, you've gone on segments there. If he scores 40 and he's a great defense player.
And he makes people around him better.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it could be more beneficial to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I got to stick with that.
And Willie's having the best year of his career playing with him.
And Willie, Willie's boat rises. And does it come at the expense of maybe Matthews a little bit or Mitch Marner if he can get hot and some guys can finish a lot better in the second half of his plays than in the first half? Then I still feel like Austin will go into the first round as amongst the most dangerous shooter. and can score in the playoffs a goal a game, can get on that kind of streak.
Sure.
So we're just going to see how this thing plays out at the end.
It is. I agree with all that. It's just strange to me. It's a big fall off.
It is. It's,
Um,
yeah, go ahead.
We'll try to get these in. The underrated story. Is there a story that you don't think people are talking about throughout the team? I'll give you Sammy's, which I thought was really good. Or wait, was it?
I said that mine was Sheldon Keefe, Jack Adams buzz was my.
Oh, was it?
My underrated.
So
story.
I'm going to give myself credit. It was actually mine that I wrote down. Mine was Morgan Riley as an underrated story. And it is he power play one? What's his usage? Do you trust him? The team's worse defensively when he's in.
Mm-hmm.
Sheldon Keefe, Jack Adams buzz is interesting.
Well, it's just like I did a whole thing on this with JD this morning, but it's like the guy lost how many players? He fought through the early season crazy, storm with Barry Trotz, and he got his guys back on track, and they missed a bunch of their top guys for a long time, and they're just still humming along and going to be a top 5 team in the league again. To me, it's like,
Yeah, and
I'm not going to win in the playoffs. I know.
Sheldon should get the 5th most votes for this trophy.
So the best team in the league is Boston Bruins. Jim Montgomery will probably win, right?
Probably.
He'll win.
They've lost 4 hockey matches.
What world
He should
does
be
he
a finalist.
probably not win?
You don't think well, if they start sucking, I guess.
That would be it. That would be the world.
They're 32-4 and
Yeah. So
4.
I'm
What
just saying he
world
needs
does
he should be a finalist.
Montgomery not win this thing?
Should be a finalist.
No, they should just put his name on the trophy.
There's 3 people, Kipper, that get named as the finalists. Sheldon Keefe should be one. You don't think that's fair?
Carolina. How
Rob
about
Brind'Amour?
Brenda Moore?
Yeah. And then the Leafs are 3rd in the league.
How about Rick Bowness? Think about that for a second. You stripped your captain. You want to talk injuries and overcoming that. How about that dressing room blowing up at the beginning of the year?
Well, this award always goes to the overachiever award. It should be called the best goalie and overachiever award as the coach of the year.
So true.
How many times has
Listen,
Rod DeBod won it? And they're sick every year. It goes to a team that overachieves every year, and that's why Jim Montgomery will get it because his team's playing better than anyone would have ever imagined it.
Yeah, but Sheldon's he's there in conversations for sure. I'm not taking that away.
Yeah,
but he's a distant to, I think,
Jim Montgomery
for me.
Yeah.
The other 2 categories, an overachiever and an underachiever from the Leafs roster this year. In terms of overachiever, I got Matt Murray. Matt Murray going into the year, I did not have high hopes for. I watched him enough in Ottawa, so that's my overachiever.
Boy, your bar was really nowhere.
Nowhere. He's at 916. He's been great on the balance. Who's overachieved for you this year, Kipper?
Yeah, you know what? I thought there was going to be a drop-off in Bunting.
Yeah.
And I think he's a better player today than he was when he had 63 last year.
Yeah.
63 points.
Smart player.
He is a better player this year.
He's a much better player, and he's better well-rounded in terms of being around the walls, 3 feet outside the blue line, 3 feet inside the blue line. He's making better plays outside of a 6-8 foot radius around the net.
Yeah. Sammy, overachiever?
I said Tavares.
Tavares?
Yeah. The expectation, what do we talk about going into this year? How much he was slowing down. He goes into camp, gets an oblique injury.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think,
and everyone's
Fair.
like, oh, he sucks. He's slow, all this crap, and he's back to being a point-a-game player. To me, he's overachieved what his expectations were.
I'm scared of the 15 games where he didn't look good prior to the weekend.
Yeah, but that's hockey.
Yeah.
Listen, guys dip, guys go up.
And he's smart as hell.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets himself in shooting lanes, as we saw last night. And you just hope that he's another guy that can catch fire at the right time.
Can't believe no one mentioned Holmberg.
Yeah.
Gord did.
I'll tell you what no one mentioned, too, is what Mark Giordano gave them to start. And unfortunately, I think we're seeing a little bit of the consequences the last little while. His drop-off for me has been significant in the last 2.5 weeks.
It has, eh?
Yes.
I agree.
What are you seeing from him? Just not the same jump?
Just, slow a little bit. And,
He's taking a lot of penalties.
It comes when
Like holding
you're
penalties.
slow.
Yeah.
It comes when the mind's not reacting or the feet aren't reacting
Should
in
grab a
time.
guy.
Ally Friday was the best at this. We could be in our own zone for a minute and a half, and then all of a sudden he lassos somebody. And it's the most blatant penalty I've ever seen my whole life. And I'm like, Al, what are you thinking? I'm tired. And when I get tired, I'll end the play.
We should get Al back on the show.
You know, we had Al on for one cameo. I think he swore 3 times, told a story about riding a motorbike naked.
The
and then we were
hardest,
like,
the hardest F ever dropped in real Kyper and Bourne history.
So just another guy that could use a few days off, and I
he
know
really got them
doesn't
through
like
the
them.
patch without all their injured guys. He got them
Amazing.
through.
And another guy
now
like
he's paying the price.
Tavares, who if you're not gifted with your feet, you got to outsmart them. You got to be on the right side of the puck, and you got to make the safest plays, the outlets, all of that. He was gold in the first half, but don't get him ready for April.
But
please.
like Patrick Marleau, I hate the idea where the player says, I'm actually better when I don't come out. And you say, well, I don't care because I disagree.
Yeah, we do not agree.
You do not agree. You are going to watch a couple of games.
Don't think for 1 second
You're
we
39.
we haven't given. We've Sammy and I have circled days off for you.
Your levels dropped.
In March and April.
All right,
Don't worry about that.
I think you're going to get complaints?
All right, our thanks to Bob Stauffer out in Edmonton. Gord Stellick in the first half. We're back the rest of the week. You know where to find us. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne. Have a great night, and we'll see you all tomorrow.